good to see you here. I'm so glad you're back. We are getting into some news this episode, and we'll probably have a special guest drop by here shortly, if they can make time for us, that is. So a lot going on in the world of news today. I think mainly the biggest story is the Department of War head, Pete Hegseth, might be in a little bit of trouble. Turns out when you blow up boats in international waters, it kind of bothers some people. It can kind of be off-putting. So we're going to get into that. And we're going to get into kind of the repercussions, like what is going to happen, if anything. Can we continue to just do this under the name of terror? And what does that mean going forward for our troops, for us as a nation? Are we becoming the evil empire? I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it kind of feels like it, right? Like just destroying boats and other countries' things without any kind of check or balance or investigation or anything. Okay, so Trump also held a, looks like a peace treaty signing in Rwanda, which we're going to check out. Made a few statements there. We're going to check out some of Hegseth's statements. We're going to look at some other breaking news as it comes across our desk live here. But a lot of this episode, I think, just because of the way the things are happening, is going to involve Venezuela and these boat strikes. So we're going to get started with this is a recent story that just came out on Meet the Press. This was just aired this morning. So this is going to be kind of a summary of the debacle so far with Hegseth. And we're going to check this out. Once this is over, we're going to get into it a little bit. And hopefully y'all have some comments, some thoughts, because this just seems like, I don't know how we're not breaking some kind of law. And I did run some information through my AI as far as like the legality of this. And there are some questionable things we're going to talk about. So without further ado here, again, this was just pushed out about an hour ago.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is under increasing pressure over multiple controversies surrounding his decision-making as leader of the Pentagon, over both the deadly second strike on that suspected drug boat in the Caribbean and his handling of classified military information in a group chat. Today, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the commander who ordered that double-tap strike on an alleged drug trafficking boat back in September were on Capitol Hill today briefing lawmakers as members of Congress demand answers and increased transparency about the legality of that second strike, which some have said could be a war crime. Following that closed-door briefing, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee expressed deep concern after seeing the video of the incident.
But what I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. Any American who sees the video that I saw will see the United States military attacking shipwrecked sailors. Bad guys, but attacking shipwrecked sailors. Now, there's a whole set of contextual items that the Admiral explained. Yes, they were carrying drugs. They were not in the position to continue their mission in any way. People will someday see this video and they will see that video shows, if you don't have the broader context, an attack on shipwrecked sailors.
But Republicans like Tom Cotton, the top Republican on the Senate Intel Committee, disagreed, saying the video showed the strike was justified.
The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful and they were exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do.
What exactly did you see in terms of the video of the second strike? Were there survivors?
I saw 2 survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over, so they could stay in the fight.
Speaking yesterday in the Oval Office, President Trump said he would support releasing the video of that controversial follow-up strike. Amid that controversy, Secretary Hegseth is also facing renewed scrutiny for the information he shared on a Signal group chat. You might remember this. This happened back in March about a pending military operation in Yemen. Today, the Pentagon Inspector General released a long-awaited report on the role the defense secretary played in the so-called Signalgate saga. In it, investigators concluded Hegseth violated military regulations, writing, quote, "The secretary's actions created a risk to operational security that could have resulted in failed U.S. mission objectives." And
This is amazing because remember a little while ago, this Yahoo was standing in front of heroic men and women of our country, telling them they needed to, I don't know, lose weight, exercise more, and be, I don't know, be badasses like we're supposed to be. Well, you also have to follow the law, sir. And literally, your own Pentagon, your own military has just told you you broke the law.
and potential harm to U.S. pilots. The report also says Secretary Hegseth declined to be interviewed as a part of the probe, instead providing just a written statement to investigators. Joining me now,
why
is
would you
NBC News
cooperate?
Senior National Security Correspondent Courtney Cubie, who is on.
Why would you cooperate with your own military investigation?
Capitol Hill for us. So, Courtney, break down these different reactions that we are hearing from lawmakers based on which side of the aisle they're on.
Yeah, so it's split down the aisle, frankly, Kristen. On the Republican side, they are saying there's nothing to see here and that they believe that the orders were all lawful and legal. On the Democrat side, we are hearing about great concerns after seeing the full video that has become the subject of so much consternation and conversation over the last week since that blockbuster report out of the Washington Post that there was, in fact, a second and then additional follow-on strikes after against a boat on September 2nd. This was the first time the U.S. military struck one of these alleged drug boats in the Caribbean Sea. Now, we have heard from a number of lawmakers today who've come out of these briefings. The briefings themselves, of course, are classified in a secure facility, so we've not heard anything from either Admiral Bradley, he was the JSOC commander at the time, he's now the head of U.S. Special Operations Command, or the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, who is alongside him in these classified briefings. But we have heard from a number of senators and and representatives on both sides of the aisle. I had an exchange with Senator Kuhn, who was one of the members who was briefed on this, and here's a little of what he had to say. Senator Cotton, that the boat was flipped over and the survivors are trying to flip it back right side. Is that your understanding?
That's a fair characterization.
Was the strike after the survivors had climbed back in the boat? Or did they ever climb back in the boat? It feels unclassified to me.
I'm trying to avoid making something unclassified that's currently classified to the best of my understanding. Senator Cotton and I came out with different understandings of what we saw.
So that was one of the new facts that we learned here today from these senators. It was Senator Cotton who first said that the boat was actually flipped over and the survivors were in the water and that was evident on the video. What's still unclear, though, Kristen, is were they actually trying to flip it over and still use it as a boat to continue on with their mission? We've also learned, according to several sources familiar, that in fact they were in some sort of communication with a mothership, and that may have factored into the ultimate decision to take that second strike.
Okay, so what I'm trying to imagine this. All right, stick with me. So you're on a boat cruising towards the United States. You got some drugs in the back. Trying to make some money, obviously. Out of nowhere. Kaboom, right? Probably the loudest, most intense, shocking noise you've ever heard once you get struck with this missile. You go flying out of the boat. Excuse me. You go flying out of the boat. You're going to be completely disoriented, probably in shock. Your survival instincts kick in. So you're looking for something. You're in the middle of the ocean that you can grab onto, that you can float. There's the boat. Swim to the boat. You're trying to flip the boat over so you can get inside and live. And then as soon as you do that, kaboom, you're hit with another strike. You're dead. Now the argument, what they're saying and what they expect you and I to believe, is that their intention was to flip that boat back over, somehow find these drugs in the middle of the ocean after an explosion, put them back in the boat, which they didn't do, and then head towards the United States, because your goal is not to make money in the United States. Your goal is to destroy the United States with drugs. I mean, I have heard a lot of bullshit in my time. I was in the Army when Bush sold us on Iraq. Excuse me. And there were people that actually believed that Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein worked together. Y'all, people believe this. And if you don't understand how crazy that is, you should check it out, because it's Saddam Hussein had banned Osama bin Laden from even coming into his territory. Couldn't even come into his country. Saddam Hussein was a dictator, and Osama bin Laden inspired people over there to follow him. A dictator does not want a guy like that in his country. They were not working together. They may have both hated the U.S. for whatever reasons, but there are no indication, zero, that they worked together, that they even talked. But somehow, through the manipulation of media and playing with words, they convinced the American people, at least enough of us, that there was a connection. And if that wasn't enough, they threw in WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. Do you remember, if you're old enough to remember, I don't want the proof to be in the form of a mushroom cloud? Our leadership was being pressed for proof that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction before we just go and invade the country. Proof. Listen, we don't want the proof to be in the form of a mushroom cloud, and then all of a sudden everybody visualizes your hometown being hit by a nuclear weapon, and it's absolutely fucking terrifying. And so, okay, if the military says they got it and they could stop it, get them. There's a lot of bad that went down in Iraq after we invaded. The problem was, and I do think it's a problem, the media didn't show us how bad it really was for those civilians that were just going about their daily lives when we decided to invade. What we do as a country, especially military action, can be extremely powerful, and it can cause ripple effects all throughout the world. And sometimes I feel like we forget that a lot of innocent people, a lot of people just like us, they get caught in it. And they become victims of it. I do not believe, I just don't believe, that anyone on that boat heading towards America that was full of drugs was doing it because they wanted to take America down. They were doing it because they wanted to make money. Because the United States is the largest consumer of drugs, illicit drugs, in the world. They need America to survive. That's how they make their money. But this cabinet is asking us to believe that these drug runners are all about death to America, when every dime they make comes from America. I do not believe it. Period. In a conversation. So when you designate drug cartels as terrorists, it adds another layer of protection for these folks. It makes it so they can carry out military action, and they can spy, and they can pretty much use every trick of the trade, every weapon we have in our arsenal, even against our own citizens. And Snowden showed us that, right? Snowden showed us what they were doing, that they were listening not just to who they thought were terrorists, they were listening to everybody for whatever reason, because they had the access. If drug cartels are terrorists, oh boy, they're already showing us how little regard they have for the actual law. And we've just gotten started. So if we look at, I can't really read it that way, but we look at counter narcotics authorities. Under long-standing U.S. policy and bilateral agreements, the U.S. can interdict suspected drug trafficking vessels. Interdict does not mean destroy. You can Google it. Now, these agreements usually require consent from the flag state, which Venezuela is not giving, clear evidence of drug trafficking, which, again, we have not seen. Have you seen the evidence? Ron's got it right. Ron doesn't even follow the cash anymore. He follows the golden toilets. How are you, Ron? Hope you're doing good, buddy. They require clear evidence, which we have not received. And they require an attempted interdiction before the use of force. So spying on them with a drone, waiting until they're clear out in the ocean and there's not going to be any collateral damage, and blowing them up is not an interdiction. That's a homicide. If you look at the stateless vessel doctrine, again, these are international waters. So if the boat is deemed stateless, the U.S. does have broad jurisdiction. However, Venezuela can claim the vessels were Venezuelan and thus not stateless, which they haven't done yet because, boy, could you imagine more craziness to an already insane situation. And what's more is like nobody cares. Nobody cares. This is how you find yourself in these situations. It starts with like a little, fuck you, we want it this way. We don't need to follow that law. That's not for us. Yeah, but this is about terrorists. And the next thing you know, you're in a world war. Like, are we not close enough, Mr. Trump, President Trump? I'm showing respect, sir. Are we not close enough? Now we have to gamble with drug runners. You're going to risk throwing off what little balance this world has left because of drug runners? Oh my God. It's always these, ask people what started World War I. And you'll get different stories based on where they live. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm sorry. I'm very concerned for the way certain things are being handled right now. But maybe I'm just over concerned. You know, I about lost my mind when we dropped a bomb on Iran and we hit their nuclear research facilities. I was convinced we were going to see some form of counterstrike. Thank God we haven't. So take what I say with a grain of salt, y'all. But I'm still going to say it.
Well, Courtney, what an excellent job you did there pressing Senator Coons. Well done, I must say. Let me ask you where this goes from here, because we know that there have been calls for this to become a public hearing. These were closed-door briefings that happened today. What are you hearing about any potential momentum to continue to push for that?
Yeah, there are still senators and members who are calling for open hearings, but we're not hearing about anything that imminent on that front. You know, there is one thing that I have noticed is a pretty consistent line coming out, no matter which side of the aisle the senator or the representative is on, is they are all very supportive of Admiral Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, the head of SOCOM, saying that he had a difficult decision and that he made the decision in the moment. One of the things that we learned is that he did actually have a judge advocate general, a JAG, in the room with him during this mission. That would be standard. But that's been one of the questions that we've been trying to figure out is, did he have legal counsel when he ultimately made the decision to carry on not just the second strike, but the third and the fourth strikes that ultimately ended up sinking that boat and killing all 11 people on board?
Well, that's a significant revelation there as well, Courtney. Let me ask you about the other matter facing Secretary Hegseth, his use of the platform Signal to discuss pending military operations. Secretary Hegseth responded to the report, writing on social media, quote, total exoneration. But, Court, that's not what the report says, right? How big of a firestorm is this?
You know, we've been trying to figure out what exonerates him exactly. Here's the facts. As we first heard about yesterday, and now the report confirms.
It's a fucking nightmare.
That is that it found that the information that was transmitted by then head of Central Command, General Eric Kurilla, was classified as secret no foreign. That means secret, not for distribution to any foreign nationals. Now, Secretary Hegseth took that information at that level of classification, put it on his personal phone in the unclassified Signal app, the communications app, and transmit it not only to other members of the administration, but then to other people like his wife, his brother, and some other friends of his. At no point is there any proof that that information was declassified. The one thing that the report does say, though, is the secretary is a declassifying authority. He has the ability to classify, but there's no indication that he actually did that. I don't see how the secretary and those around him are classifying that as an exoneration, but they continue to post that on social media today, Kristen.
All right, Courtney Kube, phenomenal reporting as always. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Is that real? Like, this guy sent classified stuff to like friends and family members and on a non-classified. Oh, but he can declassify it if he wants to. Okay. Is it declassified? What? I'm sorry. Okay. Breathe, Gabe, breathe. Wow. I don't know. I think I'll just say I don't know if this gentleman's going to have a long career in the Department of Defense. I'll leave it at that. Now, this was a cabinet meeting. I covered some of this yesterday, but did not have time to get to the questions from the reporters. And apparently Hegseth did get a few questions a couple days ago about this strike. Now, the fucked up thing about this strike, again, is the fact that you had, I mean, the whole thing's fucked up, to be real. But the fact that you made a strike, you had survivors, and then you kept making strikes until you didn't have survivors. I wonder if any of them even had a pistol on them. Not that that would justify it either, but again, these are not soldiers. These are not special operators. These are not the Navy SEALs of Venezuela. These are fucking guys trying to make a buck on drugs, right? This is like bottom of the barrel shit. Okay? These are people like cops should be busting. The Department of Defense shouldn't be following them with fucking multi-million-dollar drones and hitting them with million-dollar... Like, this is insane, y'all. It's crazy. Okay. So this was at that cabinet meeting, and Trump, I believe, both Trump and Hegseth responding to reporters here, and Trump hasn't given any indication that he is, excuse me, not happy with Hegseth. Seems to be business as usual. So, well, as usual for Donald Trump. We'll see if that changes over the next several days, but they're definitely weathering a storm at this moment, a storm that they made.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you so much for taking questions with your assembled cabinet. I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike? And Mr. Secretary, I wanted to clarify something you had said in an interview back in September, I believe on Fox News. You said that you had watched that strike live on television. In real time, did you know that there were survivors after the initial strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives. 25,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things.
Okay, that's the math, Mr. President. For every boat they blow up, they save 25,000 lives. So somebody was able to put that into Donald Trump's briefing. Like you see, he's reading it right there. And that's a talking point. He's like, great, I'll use that.
You know that there were survivors after the initial strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives. 25.
Every boat you seen blown up, we saved 25,000 lives. So technically, like, even if we killed 24,999 lives, we're still coming out ahead. Plus, American lives are worth more than other lives, duh. So really, it's like we're saving 1 million lives, right? Or 2 million, possibly. But yeah, essentially every boat they shoot down, they save 6 million American lives. I'm sorry, I'm just doing Trump math. I want y'all to know, you are not watching the Trump hating show. You're really not. What you're watching is someone very middle of the road that's losing his mind and has his kid in the room. One moment, please.
5,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things like cocaine and other things, but fentanyl right now is the leader of the pack, to kill our entire nation, because a little speck on the head of a pin can kill somebody. It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample and they died. They died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because
one of the fun things of live streaming, right? Family can get home early and the sun can bust in the room. Well, if you heard him, that was the cutest little voice in the world. And yeah, that was my little one. Okay, so like we were saying, getting back to it, I'm sorry to get a sidetrack there. So every one of these boats that the Trump admin takes down, they save 15 million American lives. So that means that they're not going to stop. That's what that means. And yeah, Steve, buddy, you are so right on. Like, under a rational administration, and I'm so with you. I'm Generation Xer. Not that I remember one of those. Hegseth would be out. He would be out. Like, dude, you're blowing up boats in international waters with no evidence, buddy. This is a field day for the media. Like, you are just giving them a spectacle. And so like, it almost makes you wonder if they have other things going on that they really don't want covered. And so they're kind of giving us this to chew on. But yeah, with this admin, he probably will. He probably will serve out his full term. And Ronald started us off early. I totally missed this one with Donald Duck and Goofy leading the way. Earth's bizarre world falls down yet another rabbit hole with no bottom in sight. Oh boy, my audience is hilarious. I love y'all. Thank you again for hanging out. Okay, so far, every boat they shoot down saves 50 million American lives. That's all he knows, he says. That's all I know. Whoops, turn it down instead of starting it again. Apologies, y'all. Here we go.
I rely on Pete, but to me it was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat, but I would say this: they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in.
Okay, So, you see that look on Hegseth's face? That's him realizing that Donald Trump just separated himself from that second boat attack. And right now, it's processing in his mind like, wait a minute. So he said he's yes, but then he said really quick, he slipped in there, oh, but I didn't have anything to do with that second attack. Now why? I wonder why the president would separate himself from that second attack.
In charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him, but Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with two people, and I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this: I want those boats taken out, and if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing when you see a boat going along, and you know, a lot of the press would like to say they're not. You see the boat, they're not maybe drugs. You see these boats. First of all, who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions and loaded up with lots of white containers? They're bags of things. No, they've done an amazing job, and Peter's done an amazing job. Pete, you could probably better answer the question.
No, you're spot on, sir. I think you got to start with the baseline, which Marco laid out, everybody's laid out. We've got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations. Now, a number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal, kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on 4-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made—
This is hilarious. Look at Donald Trump's face here. Like, keep digging, buddy. Keep digging.
the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire, smoke, you can't see anything, you got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand.
Thanks, Pete.
You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources.
Defensive much?
Not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes. about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic.
Okay, yeah. So just so you know, we have a child running the Department of Defense. I mean, that's I swear, that's what that was a fucking temper tantrum from a grown ass man that is one of the most powerful people in the fucking world. Oh my God. Please tell me I'm not alone in this. Please tell me y'all are seeing this too. This is a man child. Yeah. Me too, Steve. I had high hopes years ago. Yep. That was my fault. I valued them. Amen, buddy. I'm with you. And but you know what? It seems like no matter who it is, when we pin our hopes on any of these cats, it always comes back the same, right? Just in different ways. It always comes back like they're a piece of shit in one way or another, right? Or maybe they're not even a piece of shit. Maybe they're just dumb. Or maybe they're being manipulated, right? Maybe they're being held hostage in some way. Their decisions are. I mean, who knows what it is? But it's just like every 4 years, we look at our ticket and we go, why is it between these two people? There's like almost 400 million Americans. Why is it these two? Right? Tell me you haven't felt that way almost every time you voted for a presidential candidate. And when you believe, that's when it hurts the most. When you look at the one on the ticket and you're like, they're going to fucking fix it. They're going to do something. They're going to change it. And they go in there and they either join the club or they change something else. It happens time and time again, over and over and over, right? And sometimes it's like the craziest things. Like Clinton was supposed to be all for the people, but like he got NAFTA through. And like to the working American, to the middle class working guy that's like working in a warehouse or working in a manufacturing plant, that fucking killed you. And I was supposed to be a guy that was for you. It's just, time and time again. Okay. So let's do this. Let's go to, now this is potentially some good Trump news. We had a peace agreement in the Congo, which is like, I mean, how often do you hear about peace in Africa, right? It does not happen very often. But apparently there was a Rwanda peace agreement. They had a signing ceremony earlier today. So I am going to switch it up a little bit. And boy, it'd be nice to hear some good news, right? Let's see what we got here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the United States, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, and the President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Well, thank you very much. Wow. This is a nice building, I have to tell you. So this is a special occasion for a lot of reasons, but number one is it's our first occasion in this building using it for peace. And it's all about peace, and it's a great honor. And Marco, you've done a fantastic job in getting it ready, but it's a spectacular building, and we all appreciate it. And very importantly, we're settling a war that's been going on for decades with millions and millions of people killed. And these two gentlemen spent a lot of time backstage talking to each other and over at the Oval Office. We were at the Oval Office together. It was beautiful. And I think it's just a very important day. And we have other leaders from other countries. And you said such beautiful things. I'd love to have you come up. We'll finish up, and then I'd love to have you come up, and if you could issue the words that you just issued backstage, which usually doesn't work, you know, it usually never happens. They said, oh, they said it much better before, but you will probably do better up here. But I'd love to have you say how you felt, because it is an amazing day. Great day for Africa, great day for the world, and for these two countries, and they have so much to be proud of. And I want to thank the leaders. I want to thank you very much. It means maybe more because we are here together for the first time ever in this building. Brand new, beautiful building. I don't want to tell you how much it costs because I hear it's a lot. Okay? They don't build inexpensively here. But I just want to thank you very much. So please sit down, everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here. It's a momentous occasion. It's truly incredible setting. It's very few places I've seen like this. In this holy season, we prepare to celebrate the birth of the Prince of Peace. We have come to the U.S. Institute of Peace to sign a historic agreement that will end one of the longest-running conflicts anywhere in the world, with far more than 10 million people killed. Today we commit to stopping decades of violence and bloodshed and to begin a new era of harmony and cooperation between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. I want to thank the two courageous leaders. They are courageous leaders. They really are courageous leaders, great people. President Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and President Kagame of Rwanda. They are amazing people, and they had stories to tell me that were incredible. Really fascinating in so many different ways. Sad and beautiful, both sad and beautiful, and today makes them beautiful. I've just held really fantastic meetings with both men and representatives of other countries where we discussed the importance of upholding this new agreement. Very detailed, powerful agreement. I also want to thank several foreign guests and dignitaries in attendance to celebrate this magnificent event, including the President of Angola. Please, would you stand? And it's so great to see you. Thank you. The President of Burundi. Thank you very much. Great to see you again. The President of Kenya. We have the Olympics here. You know, they do very well in the Olympics, those runners. I don't know what the heck you do with those runners, but they are very good. I've been watching them for a long time. So we have the Olympics coming to the United States. You know that. Thank you very much. And you'll come as our guest. Thank you. And the President of the Council of Ministers of Togo. Thank you. Thank you very much. The Vice President of Uganda. Thank you. It's such a beautiful color. Like all these guys are wearing these dark suits. You just stand out for a lot of reasons. You're beautiful. The Foreign Ministers of Qatar. Thank you. Thank you very much. Say hello to my friend, a great man. And the United Arab Emirates. Thank you. Thank you. My regards, right? And the chairman of the African Union Commission, who's done a fantastic job, and thank you for all your help. We appreciate all your help. A special group of people. A very special thanks as well to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Marco, please stand. Thank you. And thank you for putting a certain name in that building. I said, boy, that is beautiful. That blew up last night. They said, that's a great honor. It really is. On this building, it's a great honor. Thank you very much. I assume you had a lot to do with that. Just a little bit, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Senior Advisor for Africa, Masad Boulos, who's been fantastic. Thank you, Masad. All of these people, every one of them were indispensable in forging this agreement. Let me also recognize Senators Mike Rounds and Lindsey Graham. Lindsey, thank you. Mike, wherever you may be. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Representatives Ronnie Jackson. Where's Ronnie? Ronnie is a great guy. He won his race in Texas by 48 points, right, Ronnie? So I don't have to ask if he's in any... I don't even have to endorse him anymore. It doesn't matter. Save the paper, right? Great job. Chris Smith. Chris? Thank you, Chris. Great. Good job. Trent Kelly. Trent? Thank you very much. Thank you. And the acting president of the Institute for Peace, Darren Beatty. Thank you, Darren, very much. Thank you very much, Darren. For more than 30 years, one of the worst conflicts on earth has been raging in eastern Congo. Millions and millions of people have been tragically killed, went on forever, and countless more have been displaced from their homes. Families have been destroyed. It's been a disaster. Many administrations have tried, but probably not too hard, knowing who preceded me. But they tried. It says they've tried. But we tried harder to end this conflict. But they've accomplished, obviously, they accomplished very little because the killing went on at levels that just got worse and worse. And today we're succeeding where so many others have failed, and this has become the 8th war that we've ended in less than 1 year. Such an exciting thing to do. This has been a really, because we're talking about 30 years of fighting, 30 years, much more than 10 million lives. Last June, thanks to the efforts of Secretary Rubio and Mr. Boulos, Rwanda and the DRC reached a landmark agreement to move toward peace. They started the process. I met with some of their great representatives who are here also, and we started a great process. The compact we're signing today, which will be known as the Washington Accords, everybody sort of liked that name, formalizes the terms agreed to in June, including a permanent ceasefire, the disarmament of non-state forces, provisions for refugees to return to their homes, and justice and accountability for those who have committed illegal atrocities. Very importantly, this agreement also creates a new framework for economic prosperity. There's tremendous wealth in that beautiful earth. It's beautiful earth, but it was stained badly with blood, tremendous amounts of blood. But in the region that will support a lasting peace, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda have agreed to more closely integrate their economies with each other rather than fighting, and they'll be doing that. And these two gentlemen are very smart, and I think they liked each other a lot. I spent time with them. I think they liked some people may be surprised. I really do. I think they've spent a lot of time killing each other, and now they're going to spend a lot of time hugging, holding hands, and taking advantage of the United States of America economically like every other country does. So they're going to do very well, but they do have some very valuable things. They're going to have a lot of money and a lot of success, and I think they're going to get along really well, so I hope so. Thank you very much. Look at them. Look at the way they love each other. Thank you. So I have a lot of confidence in both leaders. We'll keep these commitments. I know they're going to keep them and follow through on the agreement and create a much brighter future for the people of their countries and their heroes within their countries because of today. And this is a big story. And so much is being written and said. All of the newscasts have it at the top of the list. And they are heroes, and we want to keep it that way. Today, the United States is also signing our own bilateral agreements with the Congo and Rwanda that will unlock new opportunities for the United States to access critical minerals and provide economic benefits for everybody. And we'll be involved with sending some of our biggest and greatest companies over to the two countries. And we're going to take out some of the rare earth and take out some of the assets and pay, and everybody's going to make a lot of money. These are just two of the many new agreements related to mineral supplies that my administration has achieved this year, including with Australia, Japan, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, South Korea, and many other countries. With all of these agreements, we're forging new economic security partnerships that protect the interests of America and our friends and partners, and a core feature of my administration's national security strategy, a big part of which is the tariffs. We're taking in trillions of dollars in tariffs.
So that was like the kind of deal he was trying to work with Ukraine, I think, with some kind of land deal where we get the precious minerals. Okay, so the first, like 5-10 minutes was just him saying people's names, and then we got into it a little bit, but it looks like some kind of land deal, rare earth mineral deal that they've worked out, some kind of economic deal where, hey, stop shooting each other and we will provide some kind of economic benefit, it sounds like.
Tariffs, nobody's ever seen anything like it, and it's given us really great national security. Yeah, we'll be paying down debt, we'll be making distributions to people, and we're really doing a job. It's amazing. I was with a gentleman, the future king of Saudi Arabia, and you've heard me say this a couple of times, but 2 months ago when I was over there, he said, and actually Qatar is represented today, and UAE is represented, and your leader said the exact same thing, different words, but the exact same thing, that 1 year ago they thought our country was dead, and now our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world.
We're the hottest country
anywhere in the world.
We're the
Nobody's
hottest
ever
country, y'all.
seen anything
If you
like
missed it,
we have over
we're hot.
$18 trillion. That's just in 10 months. Pledged or being invested or pledged to be invested in the United States. Think of that, 18 trillion.
So
The
hot
highest
right
amount
now.
we've ever had is 1.5 under the Biden
That U.S. is so hot right now. No Zealander fans.
administration. They did much less than 1 in 4 years. Think of that. So they did less than 1 trillion in 4 years. We have 18 trillion in 10 months. It's going to be much more than that, too. No other country in history has ever been close, no matter what country you pick. So I want to thank you again, everybody, for your great vision, and I want to thank the people, especially the people that we named. Some of the others that are impossible to begin healing old wounds.
Start skipping forward. Here we go.
Past differences and creating a future where every child of God can live in dignity, prosperity, and peace. And these are two very good men, and they're two potentially very strong countries. I'd like to now invite President Kagame to come up and say a few words. It's Rwanda. And then, if I may, President of DRC, who really is doing a great job. These are two men that are doing a great job. And again, they are so respected because...
Okay. This is him either really tired or medicated to anyone else?
Of what they're doing today and the mission that they've really, I think, accomplished. And we'll see how it all works out, but I think it's going to work out really great. They want to get on to other ways of living for their people, and they're great leaders. Thank you very much. Please, Mr. President, thank you. Thank you very much.
Excellency Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, Excellencies, heads of state and government and former heads of state, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin with some words of thanks. First, to my fellow heads of state and government from Africa, your presence here confirms that these efforts enjoy the broad support necessary to succeed. I also thank Minister of State Kulaifi, representing His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad of Qatar. The role of Qatar has been absolutely central in getting us to this point. But of course, the biggest vote of thanks goes to President Donald Trump. No one was asking President Trump to take up this task. Our region is far from the headlines. But when the President saw the opportunity to contribute to peace, he immediately took it. This conflict has lasted for 30 years. We have seen countless mediations and efforts, but none has succeeded in resolving the underlying issues. President Trump introduced a new and effective dynamism that created the space for breakthroughs. His approach is even-handed, never taking sides. He orients us toward the future, not the past, emphasizing that the dividend peace is prosperity and investment, including from the United States. More importantly, President Trump's approach is pragmatic. The process has not become an end in itself. All of these elements filter down to his dedicated team, and here I want to single out Secretary Rubio and Masad Boulos for special appreciation. We would not be here today without their efforts. And as a result, we have the clearest and most viable path forward that we have ever had. These accords provide everything needed to end this conflict once and for all. If this agreement falters and things do not work out as they are supposed to, the responsibility will not lie with President Trump, but with ourselves. It's up to us in Africa, working with our partners to consolidate and expand this peace. There will be ups and downs on the road ahead. There is no doubt about it. Rwanda, I know, will not be found wanting. I can assure you of that. Our only objective is and has always been for our country to be safe and secure after having endured so much tragedy. We now only want to look forward in a confident expectation of a prosperous and stable future. Mr. President, Excellencies, I thank you for your kind attention.
Mr. the President of the United States, Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, dear members of the delegations, distinguished guests, as we have just placed our signatures at the bottom of the joint declaration enshrining the Washington agreements for peace and prosperity, I do feel, on behalf of the people of Congo, a deep gratitude and clear hope. First of all, I would like to express quite solemnly our deep thanks to the President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump. I would like to thank his administration and also wish to thank the American people for the critical role that they played for the rapprochement, the closening between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. To these thanks, I also bring in all of our regional partners and our international partners who, thanks to their commitment and engagement, have consistently made this critical moment possible in the road to peace. First and foremost, we have Sheikh Yanim bin Ahmad Adani. We have President João Manuel Lourenço Gonçalves, who is the President of Angola and the acting President of the African Union. And we also have the former President of the Republic of Kenya, my brother, Uhuru Kenyatta, who I can see here in the room. These two great Africans who are at the beginning, who started the Luanda and the Nairobi processes. And beyond them, I wish to thank also all of the African leaders who contributed to help us in this struggle. And I do hope that we have, yes, reached the end. The Washington agreements are not yet another document. These represent a turning point. They bring together under a coherent architecture a declaration of principles of a peace agreement and also the regional economic integration framework.
So, I mean, of the different peace deals Trump has gone around and tried to put together and work on, I personally, not to sound like a pessimist, I think it's for his own gain. I think he really wants the Nobel Peace Prize for whatever reason. He wants it so bad. I don't know why. But of all of them, I would say that this, if we can get Rwandans to agree to stop killing each other, it would be huge. I mean, they have literally been back and forth on that in that neck of the woods for a long time, and it would be pretty amazing to actually get a peace deal to go through there that would stick. Of course, you know, with ongoing violence for that long, of course, it's not going to go completely smoothly and off without a hitch and all those kinds of things, but it is certainly a positive move if they can make that happen. Okay, we saw a little bit, a teeny tiny snippet of some of the senators on that News Nation report reacting to the boat attacks in Venezuela. I know we got to go back to it, y'all, but it's a developing story, so we are developing with it. Now, this is actually the full interview with some of those senators after. So this is, I don't think immediately after, but pretty shortly after viewing the full video. Now, remember, what we've heard is that they fired their missile on the boat, catches fire, things explode. However, there are survivors. Now, some senators or intelligence officials will have you believe the goal after that was to flip the boat back over, recover somehow whatever drugs they could, put them back into the boat, and then proceed to America with that boat because they are that determined to take down the United States with drugs. Yes, they're going to take us down with drugs. Are you kidding? Do you know what country this is? We're the biggest consumer of drugs in the world, y'all. We would do what was in that boat at a party. That's it. We're the United States. We are the customer. They're not trying to take us down. They're trying to take money out of our wallets. If it wasn't illegal in the first place, well, I'm not even going to go there. It is illegal, and it empowers these criminals to make money off of it. I don't think I believe the intention of those traffickers was to take down the United States. Clearly. I think, again, it was just to make money. But if they say that, if they don't say the intention was to kill us, then there's no immediate threat. And because we're operating in international waters, there has to be a threat. No nation holds sovereignty, so any military or law enforcement action needs a legal justification under international law, not domestic U.S. policy, because it's not the United States, y'all. We don't own the world. Much as some folks like to think. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Steve, you make a good point, but I do remember those. 9/11, it's the commercials. If you smoke weed, you're funding terrorism. Yep. I absolutely remember those commercials. Yeah, we're funding someone else's billionaire lifestyle. They're not trying to like take down the US. That's where they make all their fucking money, yo. Why would they want a death to the US so I can not sell all my drugs and be rich? That doesn't make any sense. Use your heads, y'all. Use your heads. All right, let's hear what these senators had to say here.
Scala,
After
the number one
break.
haircare brand in Brazil, now available in the U.S.
Apologies.
Yeah, I want to thank Admiral Bradley and General Kane for coming to brief about the strikes on September 2nd, which were righteous strikes. These are narco-terrorists who are trafficking drugs that are destined for the United States to kill thousands of Arkansans and millions of Americans. The first strike, the second strike, and the third and the fourth strike on September 2nd were entirely lawful and needful, and they were exactly what we'd expect our military commanders to do.
What exactly did you see in terms of the video of the second strike? Were there survivors?
I saw two survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down from the United States back over so they could stay in the fight. And potentially, given all the context we heard of other narco-terrorists.
Okay, that is laughable. Are you laughing? I hope so, because that is laughable. The mission was to flip over the boat, get the drugs here so they could continue the fight. Dude, what are you talking about? Like, are you on another planet? They're doing what all these other cartels do, and all these other drug runners, traffickers, mules, sellers, dealers, whatever the fuck you want to call them. They're making money. Sometimes to buy a Testarossa, sometimes to provide for their families, and everything in between. All the reasons you need the money. That is what they're doing. And they've made it in this country hand over fist for literal generations. There's books, there's movies, there's dictionaries, there's websites. It's like a culture. None of that includes taking down the U.S. government. The government is like the enemy, but I've never heard like, we want anarchy to sell our drugs. Not once. Have you?
Terrorist boats in the area coming to their aid to recover their cargo and recover those narco-terrorists. And just like you would blow up
He's
a
full of
boat
shit and he knows it.
off of the Somali coast or the Yemeni coast, and you'd come back and strike it again if it still had terrorists and it still had explosives or missiles, Admiral Bradley
He didn't have any of that.
did exactly what we would expect him to do.
Did a JAG tell him?
said it's one of the most disturbing things he's seen in his career. Did that match
Who
up
did?
with what you, Congressman Hines?
No, I didn't see anything disturbing about it. What's disturbing to me is that millions of Americans have died from drugs being run to America by these cartels. What's gratifying to me is that the president has made the decision finally, after decades of letting it happen, that we're going to take the battle to them. And we're going to continue to strike these boats until cartels learn their lesson that their drugs are no longer coming to America.
Did a military JAG say that the second and follow-on strikes were all lawful?
Yes, look, this is not like a firefight in some cave in Afghanistan that had 3 people. This was witnessed by literally hundreds of uniformed and civilian personnel at the Pentagon, at Fort Bragg, at other installations. Dozens of them were lawyers. Everybody was watching. Everybody had seen the intelligence and the legal basis leading up to these strikes. Everyone was present during it, and that continues to be the case. There's been no change in the guidance or the order that the Secretary has given to our troopers. And in subsequent strikes, there's an example where survivors actually were shipwrecked and distressed and not trying to continue on their mission. And they were treated, as they should be, as non-combatants. They were picked up by U.S. forces. Just an example of how, of course, our military always obeys the laws of war.
And
our military
where are they now,
also
sir?
acts within appropriate lawful authody
We don't know.
to target these narco-terrorists.
But Congressman Hines also said that according to what he saw in that video, the two who weren't survived trying to get back on the boat, there was no way they could have conducted further operations or anything like that. Do you disagree with?
Jim may disagree with the entire operation. He may be okay with drug boats running to America, or at least thinking that it's an effective tactic to interdict them. I just disagree with that. These are narco-terrorist, foreign designated terrorist organizations who are bringing drugs to.
Okay, but you disagree with that. I understand, sir. But interdiction is the law. Are you familiar with that? That's something you can argue in a court somewhere. But like until it changes, interdiction is the law, not stealth strikes.
Our shores that have killed millions of Americans and thousands of Afghans. If you think these strikes are justified and righteous, as I do, and I want them to continue, then of course the second strike, when you have two survivors who are trying to flip their boat back over.
Like, you want them to continue until you find out like a friend or a family member's on one, or a friend or a family member knows one of them and is affected by it. Once it becomes personal, then his whole tune would change. I promise.
And continue on their mission, remain in the battle. Unlike a subsequent strike, in which there was no such indication, and they were what's called distressed or shipwrecked under the laws of the sea and the law of armed conflict, and our military went out and picked them up.
Is it your expectation that these strikes will continue?
It's my expectation and my deep hope that these strikes will continue.
What about on land? The president has said that strikes could happen on land. Is that something you would support?
If necessary to stop the flow of drugs.
So why is it necessary to murder them? Can someone help me understand this? If we've got them, if we've tracked them, we know where they are. They're in international waters. We've followed them since Venezuela, allegedly, right? Like, we know the whole deal. We know where they're at. So you're telling me it's cheaper to shoot at them with a missile that guaranteed costs at least 6 figures? Probably more, probably 7 figures. You're telling me it's cheaper to do that and deal with the collateral damage than it is to just interdict and to just intercept them, arrest them, detain them, show the rest of us the evidence? That is an important part, remember, of law enforcement, is to provide evidence of wrongdoing. It's incredible to me that more people are not pissed off about this. That people are totally complacent. It's not okay, y'all. I might be the only one saying it. Probably on YouTube, but I'm telling you, it's not okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think ever since the executive order really got tapped, you know, when they were like, fuck it, fuck passing a bill, we can do this for the remainder of your term and it'll be law. Yes, he says the law is irrelevant to the executive branch these days. The mantra is, if you think what I'm doing is illegal, take me to court. By the time it gets resolved, it'll be too late. The deed is done. 100%. Yeah, the best we can hope for is some kind of reversal. Maybe at some point, somebody that matters has to deal with the consequences. But it's just, I guess it wouldn't be so frustrating, I think, if I understood the play. But I really don't understand it. I think it must just be being able to wield the Patriot Act and the perks that come with that for those in power while he's in office. I mean, he's got his own war on terror now. And if you remember the war on terror days, they weren't great. Not exactly one of our proudest moments, y'all. When the CIA is burning their own tapes, you know that we probably made a mistake somewhere along the line. Okay. So, this gentleman here represents Arkansas. I apologize for not knowing his name. Clearly is all about blowing up the boats. Let's see if we get another
In the
opinion.
United States and protect our communities and our children, we should take force to these cartels wherever they are authorized.
And should the video be more common as strikes continue?
Say again?
Should briefings become far more common as strikes continue?
No, look, Congress.
Sir, do any of your children serve in the military? Do you know if they'll be deployed in any of these land incursions?
It's not Congress's role to sharpshoot every single tactical decision. This was the first strike, so understandably the Secretary and Admiral Bradley wanted to be involved in it. But subsequent strikes, again, we don't expect admirals and the Secretary of Defense to be approving patrols in Iraq or Afghanistan during the war on terror in those places. They shouldn't be involved in every single decision here.
Maybe they should have been.
Be sitting there sharpshooting and Monday morning quarterback.
But yesterday the president told reporters that this is war regarding the actions with Venezuela. So that seems like an escalation that Congress would want to be a part of.
Well, look, they came up here today to brief us because of the lies that were in the Washington Post last Friday to clear the air. I advise the next time to immediately put out what they told us today, because if they had put it out on Friday or Saturday, you wouldn't have the 6 days of controversy. I think you would have had the American people very satisfied that we have such a high degree of professionalism in our military, and the president is taking the battle to these narco-terrorists.
So you believe the whole video should be released in its entirety?
Of course we have a high degree of professionalism in our military. Our military is fucking squared away, sir. We know that. It's not about can our military handle it. Our military can handle whatever you throw at them, I promise. But this is about justification, the law, and right and wrong. We are supposed to do what's right and wrong in this country. That's why we have law. Now, you might not agree with a lot of it. Lord knows I don't. But we have a platform for debating that. And we have an avenue for changing that. As bureaucratically frustrating as it can be, we have a way. So we can do a lot of things. It's a matter of, is it right? Is it acceptable? Is it lawful? As much justification as we used after 9/11 about dealing, hey, this is a different kind of a threat, so we need to be able to break the rules. But you ask those people today, I'd say probably 9 out of 10 say we fucked up. We should have never passed the Patriot Act. We should have never tortured people. We are the United States of America. We're above that. Like, don't get caught in the gutter. Just because that's where your enemies play. Then you become your fucking enemy. Y'all are better than that. Shit. Okay, so clearly we know where this guy stands. I believe this is a bit of a different take. So, and what I think is funny is that these gentlemen watched the same video. And one of them we just watched comes away thinking, yeah, that seemed legit to me. Now let's watch this gentleman, his reaction after watching the same video.
As to what actually happened, we saw the video, and the most disturbing thing about what Senator Cotton just said is this notion that they were trying to flip the boat back over and get back into the fight. Based on the video, that's patently ridiculous. And Admiral Bradley even said in the briefing that he had concluded that there was no way that that boat was being right-sized. They were standing or leaning on the bow of the boat, which was the only part of the boat that was still sticking out of the water, and it was capsized. There was no way they were flipping that back over and going anywhere. The boat was totally disabled and floating in the current. The argument that the Admiral made is that they couldn't tell if the drugs were destroyed. And look, the first strike set the boat on fire, flipped it over. Like I said, only the bow sticking up. There's no way to tell that there were any drugs left there, and quite a few reasons to conclude that there weren't. But that was the basis for the strike. Not that they were trying to right-size the boat and go on their merry way. That wasn't happening. It was, I suppose, arguably possible that someone could come to assist them, but we had eyes on the scene and nobody was. So they weren't trying to flip the boat back over and get into the fight. They were simply sitting on the boat trying to survive. So I don't agree with that characterization. Cotton is right. The real issue here is the orders around the whole mission.
When you talk about the mission in general, here the number of strikes on suspected boats, there hasn't been a strike since November 17th. We could show our audience here the calendar. There was basically one almost every other day in October, many in November, and none since November 10th, or November 15th, excuse me. The Secretary of War, Congressman Pete Hegseth, said this the other day in the cabinet room, and then I want to pick it up with you on the other side.
We've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. We've had a bit of a pause because it's hard to find boats to strike right now, which is the entire point.
He says it's the entire point. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. No. In fact, he wouldn't agree with that if he thought about it for 2 seconds. The entire point, I guess, is to try to stop drugs from coming into the United States or severely restrict their flow. There's no evidence at this point that the flow has been severely restricted. And again, remember, we're talking about cocaine here. Fentanyl is the primary killer in America. That is what people are overdosing on, and this entire operation has nothing to do with fentanyl. And the conclusion here, and it's really important, that the only reason that this strike has the veneer of possibly being legal is the argument that these two were trying to get back into, quote, the fight, end quote. When you're in a normal combat situation, you have to think about, okay, I've wounded this person, they appear to say, but could they possibly still get up and shoot at me? These two weren't shooting at anybody. They were deemed to be possibly getting back into the fight by the possibility that the cocaine was still there in the bottom of the boat, and they might find some other way to transmit it, and also not to the United States. They had no idea where this cocaine was going. So it's really attenuated to say that they were back in the fight or directly related to the drug problem we have in the U.S.
As I mentioned, you were a part of the briefing there with the Admiral. This is one part of a very big and complicated story, because when you project forward, there's the decision from the Commander-in-Chief potentially coming, Congressman Smith, on what to do with potential strikes inside Venezuela. Did you get a sense from the Admiral about what might be coming next?
That did not come up, and that is also part of the problem here. This mission has been presented as really focused on drugs. Got to stop drugs coming in. Well, problem number one is at the same time that's going on, President Trump is pardoning massive drug dealers. The former president of Honduras, who was convicted in U.S. courts of trafficking hundreds of tons of cocaine in the U.S., he's going to pardon him. He also pardoned Ross Ulbricht from the Silk Road, who was using crypto and secure lines on the internet to launder money for billions of dollars in drugs. He pardoned both of them. And then second, the president has talked a lot about wanting to get rid of Maduro in Venezuela. So is this about drugs or is this about regime change? And none of it has been authorized by Congress.
We've covered all this, but let me leave our audience with this, because you are the ranking member on the House Armed Services Committee. You've got a big job and a wide perch up there, Congressman. What do you think happens next in Venezuela?
It's really hard to say. I don't know what the president's going to do. I'll tell you, there is no way on earth we should be going to war or trying to do regime change in Venezuela. We should be out of the regime change business. I'm not a fan of Maduro, but the idea that all you got to do is remove someone and something better automatically comes in its place, I would trust that Libya, Afghanistan, Iraq, a whole lot of places would have taught us that lesson by now. and that we would be out of the regime change business.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download.
Yeah. Sorry about that interruption, y'all. But yeah, two men working at the same place, watch the same video, and they see something totally different. And I gotta say, like, what the second senator had to say about the two guys leaning against the boat and not getting back in the fight, that kind of makes more sense to me. I mean, if you're in the middle of the ocean, you just got hit by a fucking drone, huge explosion, you're all disoriented. Yeah, I don't think you're worried about getting the drugs and getting to America, because death to America or whatever. It just makes no sense. And now, so what that senator did give us is a frame of reference, if you noticed. So the battle is, the way it's framed is the drugs coming into the country are killing the Americans because of overdoses. Hence, the people bringing the drugs in here are doing that on purpose. They purposefully are trying to get people to overdose and die on their drugs because they want all Americans dead because they hate America. So, any transportation of the drug into the country is an act of war. So when they say get into the battle, they're not talking about like grabbing a gun and firing back at the drone that they can't see in the first place. They're just talking about grabbing the cocaine or whatever and bringing it to the country because it's that important to kill us with these drugs, right? I mean, if that's the case, why don't they just give it away for free? If the goal is to just kill all the Americans with the drugs, could you imagine how easy it would be if your cocaine was free? So no, I don't think the goal is to kill the Americans with the drugs. It's insane. This is like the people that made the movie Reefer Madness are now making drug law or something. I mean, it just makes no fucking sense. Jesus. Okay, Maduro apparently got a phone call from Trump. This video is only about a minute, and it's not in English. However, there are subtitles in English, I believe. So let's hear what Maduro had to say about his phone call with President Trump. Okay. So he says he had a cordial conversation between himself and the President of the United States. He referred to himself in the third person at one point. and then he danced with an older lady. That was 57-second update from the actual President Maduro. What dimension are we in, y'all? Like what reality did we slip into? That was from the Associated Press. That was an AP update. We are so fucked, y'all. Like, we're so fucked. Okay. This was a CBS News update on, again, the Venezuela boat, Maduro thing. I'm telling you, this second boat, yeah, I'm with you, Ron. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. America could easily snort a ton of cocaine on a long way, and that's what I'm saying. Like, and then Steve, pointed out earlier, where was it at? Yeah, I thought these were fentanyl boats. I thought we were blowing up boats that had a bunch of fentanyl on it. That was what was killing Americans. Nope. Wrong. Cocaine boats. Just kidding. Okay. This was from CBS News, and hopefully this will give us a little more insight into what's going on, because there's something going on with this video and the second attack. I'm telling you, somebody that matters didn't like what they saw, and we're seeing some stuff. Something's going to happen with this. We saw Trump separate himself from it during that briefing 2 days ago. So, I mean, he did it right in front of Hegseth too, which was pretty amazing. So I think there's something going on with that attack. The fact that we had survivors that I'm quite certain were probably hanging on and begging for dear life, that we blew up anyway. Okay. I'm going to, in the background, look for something a little more coherent from President Maduro, and recent as well. So that's, to me, that's very telling, right? Sometimes you kind of feel the truth coming out of somebody, like you just kind of know, maybe not that they're lying exactly, but there's a piece of bullshit in there somewhere. They're not being honest with themselves about something. I got that from the last guy, right? I got that when he was saying, yep, looked like a legit strike to me. Enemy combatant was trying to, rearm themselves with cocaine and then continue on to the United States to kill people via overdose with cocaine. But what that man said right there, oof. Oof. Did you feel that? Like, I felt that. In fact, let's do this again. And I want you to think about, like, how heavy this is.
Do you think the video should be released publicly?
I do.
All right, so what you heard there in that last segment, which was him saying that Admiral Bradley said that there was no kill them all order from Defense Secretary Hegseth, that is news. And so we are going to see if other lawmakers have the same reaction here. But Reed, just kind of taking a step back, I want to remind people that there are a lot of members of top committees of jurisdiction getting these briefings, but they're not all.
Okay. So if you had no audio, that kind of ruins my whole thing, my whole little speech I gave. So I got to go back. And like I was saying, the first senator I heard talk about this, I felt like we were getting a typical political answer, which is to mean technically the truth, but not, if you know what I'm saying. Like, yes, that is what happened, but that interpretation you gave was full of legalese and didn't seem to make much common sense, which means you're usually trying to protect something, versus what this senator here says, which is very just honest and real, I think.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff did the right thing, and Admiral Bradley defended the decisions taken, and Admiral Bradley has a storied career, and he has my respect, and he should have the respect of all of us. But what I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. You have two individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who are killed. by the United States. The last thing I'm going to say is that the Admiral confirmed that there had not been a kill them all order and that there was not an order to grant no quarter.
So does it exonerate Hegseth? Does it exonerate him?
That's all I got.
Do you think the video should be released publicly?
I do.
All right, so what you heard there in that last segment, which was him saying that Admiral Bradley said that there was no kill them all order from Defense Secretary Hegseth, that is news. And so we are going to see if other lawmakers had the same reaction here. But Reed, just kind of taking a step back, I want to remind people that there are a lot of members of top committees of jurisdiction getting these briefings, but they're not all getting them at the same time. They're kind of scattered throughout the day. So the only person that we have heard from give a readout so far is that Democratic lawmaker. That is his perception of what he saw in that briefing. And as you can tell, he was extremely troubled by it. And he is refuting the explanation given from the Pentagon so far, and that our own Ellie Watson reported that the explanation for that second strike is because those two survivors were climbing back onto the boat to salvage the drugs on that boat, and also in communication with other boats. In Himes' telling, he is not taking that with much credibility there, because he says, according to what he saw, there was no chance that those two would be able to do that. Now, again, we're waiting to see what the readout is from other members who have been tight-lipped about what they saw here. But bigger picture, Reed, there are a lot of questions up here on Capitol Hill about the administration's broader strategy when it comes to these strikes on drug boats. You've had Senator Rand Paul, who's an anomaly within the Republican Party, but still a notable voice nonetheless, saying that the strikes themselves, not just the second one, but the first one, they're illegal in his view, because there is no declaration of war and Congress has not weighed in. So Senator Paul and 3 other Democrats have introduced a War Powers Act that says the administration can't conduct these strikes without consulting and getting the approval from Congress. We'll see if that gets anywhere. It probably won't, but we'll see whether that gains any momentum after these briefings. But the bigger picture here is that lawmakers want to know what the strategy is. Are we at war? And does that then justify these strikes in the first place? It's an open question.
Right. And Caitlin, I have to go back to that moment that really is going to be breaking news and forming our dinner time headlines. And that's the lawmaker saying that the Admiral said there was no kill them all order, which has really come from earlier reporting that really blew the lid and brought the scrutiny to this in the first place. So let's look at what could happen next. Of course, we know this is a very classified, very closed door meeting, and that all we'll know will be if lawmakers exit that meeting and do what you saw the lawmaker do, which is sort of give a debrief to reporters. But could this turn into a larger inquiry in Congress?
Well, it could certainly, Reed, depending on what answers they get from this briefing. We heard earlier today from the ranking member on the House side of the House Armed Services Committee, Representative Smith, tell us that he needs some answers before they know what to even investigate here. So a lot is riding on these briefings, and I'm waiting to see whether there are partisan interpretations of them. But it is notable, Reed, that there have been many times up here on Capitol Hill over the past few days that Republican lawmakers have been asked about their confidence in Pete Hegseth, and they have been saying he serves at the pleasure of the president. Not exactly a ringing endorsement there. So some room for some criticism, some skepticism, but we'll see what kind of answers they get to those questions, and that will inform what this probe looks like going forward, if at all.
Wow. We'll let you get back to it. Caitlin Huey-Burns on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much.
So that is pretty disturbing. It's I think some people are definitely going to go down. I just wonder who it's going to be, and I wonder what technicality they're going to get them on. But clearly, like, you can't. Whoops. Yeah, you can't just blow up drug boats. This is why we saw the shift to calling them terrorists, right? This was I think it's very clear now why they decided to label drug cartels as terrorists. Because if you label them as terrorists, well, then all of a sudden you don't have to worry about a lot of the normal rules of engagement and law that you typically have to follow. We've got noise from Capitol Hill about the War Powers Act, and which would mean the president would need authorization before going forward with any of these military operations. But they're really, I think they've kind of put themselves between a rock and a hard place here, where I still have yet to see any evidence other than their word, right? They're stacking up bales of cocaine in white containers in these boats. Okay, well, you blew it all up. So how are you going to prove that's what it was? Maybe that's another reason why interdiction instead of spying and murdering is a better idea. I don't know. Call me crazy. Oh, I think they will absolutely ride out this storm. Look, Trump is on his... I'm sorry to say, look, I hate saying that. Trump is on his last term. He doesn't have anything he's worried about. He doesn't have to worry about people voting for him again, right? He's good. He's got this term and then he's done. The worst he could do is fuck it up for someone in his cabinet that wants to run for president. That's about the worst he could do. And he's been planning this for the last 4 years. Hey, what up, Ryan? Good to see you, buddy. Are you witnessing this fucking craziness that's going on now? We're just blowing up boats from Venezuela. Don't take a yacht to Venezuela this time of year. You might end up in a drone's sights. Okay, so Ryan says, let's see, Vance Rubio will be the ticket for the Republicans. I could see that. Yeah, I could totally see that. Interesting. I think we'll see a couple of... It's almost like presidency is getting to... I mean, now that Trump's run twice and won twice, I think... I mean, Trump was a reality star who never, ever served at any capacity. Like, he never was in the military. He never was, like, even in the city council. I doubt the dude was even, like, in a PTA. You know what I mean? Like, he's never served any capacity at all, ever, for anyone else. I seriously doubt he ever has even done volunteer work in his life. So his big claim to fame is telling people they're fired on a reality TV show. His businesses, let's be honest, his businesses aren't that successful. They're really not. However, he is successful, even though I know he's filed bankruptcy a few times. But he remains, generally successful guy. But other than that, he hasn't served this country. Like, he hasn't really done anything for this country or even his neighborhood. And that's the bar now. So, like, are we in a world where, like, in 20 more years, Kim Kardashian's going to be president? Holy fuck. Could you imagine? Wow. Okay. I don't really watch mainstream news much. However, the president does. And I know the president watches this program quite often. This is Fox and Friends. And the title of it was the president urged to take action against Maduro. And I just wonder, like, who is urging the president to take action against Maduro? If you watch any of my previous videos, you know I believe the deep state has been after Venezuela for generations. The deep state has wanted that oil under Venezuela for a very, 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 very long time. A very long time. And we've done a lot to destabilize that nation. I thought it was funny when Trump announced he was sending CIA in there. I kind of chuckled to myself and I was like they're not already there. CIA's been there already. Come on, y'all. Why do you think they're always having problems constantly? Okay, so let's watch Trump being urged to take action against Maduro.
This morning, growing tensions with Venezuela as President Trump gathers his national security team in the Oval as he weighs sending in the military to take out Maduro. It comes as a deadly strike on alleged narco-terrorists back in September is now under congressional review, bipartisan for the most part. Critics say the Department of War may have broke the law by reportedly ordering a second strike to kill 2 survivors.
You said that the follow-up strike was lawful. What law is it that allows no survivors? The strike conducted on September 2nd was conducted in self-defense to protect Americans in vital United States interests. The strike was conducted in international waters and in accordance with the law of armed conflict.
Fox News contributor, former Secretary of State, CIA Director Mike Pompeo joins us now. First off, let's talk about the Venezuelan and a resolve. Conversation with the president, Mr. Secretary, and Maduro, both presidents. Essentially, the president reportedly, according to the Miami Herald, said, you got to leave. You can leave with your family. We're not going to exonerate you from future criminal charges. You're not going to get the military like you want. You said you want to control the military. That's not going to happen. You got to go. So the ball's in Maduro's court. But if he doesn't go, what are our options? Would we do a strike inside Venezuela?
Good morning, Brian. Look, I don't know exactly what the president's plans and intentions are, but it is completely legitimate for the United States of America to defend itself from this narco-terrorist state in Venezuela led by Nicolás Maduro. He's an indicted drug kingpin. He's conducted terror. He's put drugs and killed many, many Americans as a result of that. So the effort to oust Maduro that we did in the first Trump administration to go after Venezuela, to try and change the government in Cuba too, right? The nature of that regime is oppressing its people right on our doorstep. This is a legitimate effort by President Trump, and I hope he will continue to ratchet up the pressure. The tools are very broad. Lots of things that can be done. Short of putting the 82nd airport on the ground, there are many, many things President Trump has at his disposal. He's talked about closing the airspace over Venezuela. He's talked about putting economic pressure on the border between Venezuela and Colombia. Lots of options that President Trump has at his disposal. And I hope that the show of force, the large number of troops and ships that are in the area aren't just there.
So I want y'all, and you look, y'all are smart. You know what's going on. But if you're not sure why we're watching this, this is a message right to the president from the party, from Mike Pompeo, right? This is what the party wants. They know Trump watches Fox and Friends. This is a direct message to the president. And you see Pompeo nearly drooling, thinking about the possibilities of war with Venezuela, because war is a money maker, unfortunately. And there's a group of men, many groups of men, that make many, many, many monies every time we have a war. And when you see guys like this smiling and getting excited to go to war, it's because they're in with that crew. Unfortunately, that crew usually isn't the same crew that has to go out and risk their lives in these wars. It's usually a totally different group of people doing that.
there for show. I hope they're there to actually achieve the end state of making America safer again.
So let's talk about double tap strikes. So if you have a target, a terror target, you hit him. If there are survivors, I guess the rule of war is that you don't go back and finish them off. You capture them and I guess bring and imprison them. Washington Post says Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, ordered that double tap hit. The New York Times, of all people, seems to exonerate the Secretary of War. Said Mr. Hegseth, the head of the September 7th attack, ordered a strike that would kill the people on the boat and destroy the vessel and a purported cargo of drugs. Hegseth's directive did not specifically address what would happen if a first strike turned out to be not fully accomplish all those things. And the official said his order was not a response to surveillance footage showing that at least 2 people survived on the boat on the first blast. The admiral in charge did do that. And the president said, and the Secretary of War says, I fully support that admiral, and he says he's a great patriot. Your thoughts about this whole scenario?
So I've seen the work of Admiral Bradley for a long time. He's an amazing warrior. There's no doubt about that. The rules are pretty straightforward. The facts are murky. We need to figure out exactly what happened. But it sounds to me like if what has been suggested is true, that they were still trying to continue to do the work to defend America. If you have folks who are surrendering, if you have the capacity to capture them safely, not put any of your own soldiers at great risk, then it's true. You're not permitted to kill them under the laws of war. But what I've seen so far, the administration was simply trying to do the necessary to keep America safe. I hope that that's the case. We should have a full investigation. We should figure out exactly what the facts are. And if somebody broke the law, they should be prosecuted for that. It's pretty straightforward, Brian.
So Pete Hegseth fully in support of Admiral Mitch Bradley. I just want to tell you that in the 580 drone strikes, roughly, that Barack Obama did over 8 years in office, killing al-Qaeda terrorists and all their affiliates, and I'm fully in support of it. In 2012, a Stanford and NYU report said that there were dozens of double-tap strikes there. Amnesty International 2013 report says 28 strikes in northwest Waziristan had follow-up strikes, and I can go on and on with this. So are we going to go back and prosecute Barack Obama for those double-tap strikes and find out who authorized that, maybe at the CIA? Lastly,
yeah, Brian, that was exactly my point, Brian. This is complicated, very fact-dependent. You do have to finish the mission. If you're under threat, you have to make sure that you don't put your warriors in a position where their lives or their health is endangered. We can't permit that to happen. And so to continue to prosecute against a target is perfectly reasonable until such time as you're fully sure that you can capture them in a reasonable way and that you're not putting your own soldiers at risk. Until that time, you're free to continue to do the work that's necessary.
If Soleimani had survived the drone strike, would we not have finished him off?
Yeah, I mean, Soleimani was a terrorist. We would have made sure that Soleimani wasn't going to harm an American ever again. He killed over 500 of our folks in Iraq, Brian. And Soleimani was no more going to surrender or go peacefully than a man in the moon. And so, yeah, we would have done the work to make sure Soleimani never threatened an American again.
Thanks so much, Mr. Secretary. I can't wait to get the aftermath of what you think is going to emerge. We don't have time now for Russia-Ukraine talks today. There's got to be some leverage on Russia to come legitimately to the table to end the fighting. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much. Always great.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
Yeah, do it, y'all. Subscribe to Fox News YouTube. I will tell you, like I said, this is what the president watches. So whenever you do see something, Fox and Friends, you know President Trump's watching it. I believe he watches it like every morning, like religiously. So that's the rumor at any rate. This was from this morning, I believe. Wait, let me just make sure. Oh God, 4 days ago. But this is why I chose it, because it's titled Venezuela Fires Back at Trump, Unjustified Aggression.
President Trump is escalating pressure on Venezuela, saying, quote, to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. The Venezuelan government responding, quote, Venezuela denounces and condemns the colonialist.
Okay, that was super weird, right? Why would you say airlines and pilots, and then drug dealers and human traffickers? Yeah, sometimes Trump is on one, y'all. What the fuck? To all airlines, pilots, and drug dealers and human traffickers.
Space above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. The Venezuelan government responding, quote, Venezuela denounces and condemns the colonialist threat that seeks to undermine the sovereignty of its airspace, constituting a new extravagant, illegal, and unjustified aggression against the people of Venezuela. Here to discuss is Florida Congresswoman and member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Maria Salazar. Kind of rich for Maduro to talk about the aggression against the Venezuelan people coming from that regime, right?
Well, that's what these Latin American thugs, dictators, caudillos do all the time. Look at Noriega, look at Fidel, look at Chavez. But, you know, the Venezuelans are waiting for the Americans to come and help them be free again and be free from drugs and everything that Maduro regime has brought to them for the last 25 years.
So there was a call between President Trump and Nicolás Maduro very recently. What do you think happened, or what do you know? I'm sure you have more information than most.
Yeah, well, President was gracious and offered a way out. And Maduro is being instructed by the Cubans, don't go, because that's Maduro's biggest fear, that the Cubans, who are really the one calling the shots, are going to kill him before he leaves. So Maduro is...
The Cubans or the narcos? Or the narcos? Who's going to kill him?
The narcos, well, anyone. But the Cubans are the ones who are running the repressive apparatus, and they have been running it for the last 25 years, because, you know, that comes from Fidel's book. And Maduro is very afraid of them. But look, for those Americans who are watching this show, this is a historical moment for the Trump administration. Not only Trump is demonstrating, and I say it from the bottom of my heart, he's not only demonstrating great political courage, he's liberating the continent from China, from Iran, from Russia, from the drug dealers. This is going to send a very clear message to other countries. And we're going to avoid a lot of problems in the future because of this action that he's taking right now. So I salute President Trump for doing this.
So Venezuela is different than any other country in that it is truly the resources, the richness that it has, the ability it has to stand itself up. So once Maduro's gone and the opposition party, whether it's Edmundo or Maria Corina, sort of step up into that place, she's said to me on various interviews that this will be a peaceful transfer of power, that they have everything in place to just sort of step in. They'll be able to stand themselves up without any assistance from the United States.
Of course.
But let's talk about this moment now. How critical, maybe even dangerous, is this period for her, for the Venezuelan people?
Well, for her, it's very critical. She has been hiding in a tunnel. You know, she's the George Washington of modern times for Venezuelans. She's been hiding, you know this, in a tunnel. We don't know where she is. Maduro forces are looking for her. And still she has the strength and the courage to stay in Venezuela like no other men. Everyone has fled, and she's there, and she's the legitimate leader of the opposition.
Let's make that point. So Edmundo Gonzalez is the one who won the election officially, right?
Because Chavez did not let her run.
Correct.
So she was
so she was his second, and she was his second in command. He was the one who won, but he left, and she stayed.
Yes, and not only that, is that she was the one who won the primary,
of course,
90%. But when Maduro is the same thing, understands that she is going to be the next legitimate president, she says, no, you cannot run. Politically speaking, according to this law, that other law.
Instead, you had corruption charges.
Whatever. And then she says, okay, no problem. I'm not running as president. Let me put this nice gentleman, Edmundo Gonzalez.
How long before this happens? What is your prediction? Before Christmas?
Imminent, because
we're on the verge. You're saying within days we're going to see something happen.
Because this is what we did with Iran, that we gave ample notice to the commercial airlines, do not overfly the Venezuela. That's exactly what the president has done. And now this is not going to be hard. 80% of the Venezuelans voted for the opposition. You have 8 million Venezuelans in exile. We're talking about the largest reserves of...
This is not going to be hard. Iraq is going to welcome us as heroes, y'all. With open arms. Iraq is going to welcome us. Liberators. Bringing freedom and democracy to Iraq. Come on. Like, are these people serious? It's the same shit. They have zero evidence. None. They've presented the American people with nothing. No pictures, no videos, no documents, no trial, nothing. They've posted videos of our military, who we pay for, blowing up boats that they say, the cabinet says, are drug boats from Venezuela. Drug cartels are the new terrorists. And we will be using the full might of the American military and our anti-terrorism units against them. That, like, if you thought Afghanistan was an endless war, psh, you know how many drug cartels there are? There's like, I mean, how many nations do the cartels run? You've got Mexico, you've got Colombia, you've got parts and segments of all kinds of countries. All right. Moving on here, the Democratic Party, parts of the Democratic Party, rather, have really been pushing this ACA tax credit deal, and it looks as if they've made some headway.
Senate Democrats
and we're going to
announced
check that out
legislation
here.
for a 3-year clean extension of the current Affordable Care Act subsidies during a news conference on Capitol Hill. They highlighted the importance of extending the credits, noting that Americans in both blue and red states will suffer if tax credits are not renewed.
Okay. Well, I'm here today with Senators Lujan and Welch, and Lisa Blunt Rochester is on her way. She's voting. Okay, well, we're here. Why are we here? The country is standing on the edge of a health care cliff, a cliff Republicans are pushing us towards, and the clock is almost out. 27 days. That's all the time Americans have before ACA premiums expire and health care costs explode in every state, city, and locality of the country. The Senate Republicans can avoid this now. The Senate can vote to pass our legislation, plain and simple, and save American thousands. Republicans caused this problem. They knew this cliff was coming and would only make the pain worse for Americans, yet they've chosen to do nothing, absolutely nothing. They are nowhere. They don't even have a proposal. And the American people are running out of time. So today I'm announcing that Senate Democrats will introduce legislation for a 3-year clean extension of the current ACA tax credits. This bill, a clean year 3 extension of the ACA tax credits that Democrats will bring to the floor for a vote on Thursday, And every single Democrat will support it. Every single Democrat. That means Republicans have only 1 week to decide where they stand. Are they going to vote for this bill and bring health care costs down for the American people, or block this bill and send premiums skyrocketing on January the 1st? That's what's at stake. This is one of the most important votes we're going to have in this whole Congress, because right now Republicans, even a small number of them, 7 of them, could vote yes and avoid the health care cliff that so many Americans are so worried about, that millions of American families are staying up and can't sleep at night because they don't know what they're going to do. Republicans have no plan to deal with this crisis. No plan. And make no mistake, the vote is the last chance before January 1st to avoid the crisis they caused and bring relief to the American people. They have no unity. They have no consensus. They don't even have concepts. You got one Republican saying this, another Republican saying that. It's amazing. They have nothing in the most major issue affecting the American people, and they can't get their act together. Democrats are fighting to lower health care costs. Republicans are fighting with one another. They're so busy fighting one another that they're not helping the American people. For months, they spent their energy trying to kick low-income families off their coverage, pushing poison pills that ban abortion, floating one-time checks that wouldn't even cover a single month of premiums, let alone 12 months. And families, as we know, are paying more. Republicans want to hand them the few Republicans who have this payment plan want to hand them a Band-Aid while premiums jump $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 a month. So, a one-time check's not health care. It won't stop January's premium shock. If Republicans block our bill, there's no do-over. Premiums go up January 1st, period, and the premiums are like a hammer blow to the American people. You all know the numbers. Couples nearing retirement making $85,000 a year could pay $30,000 more in states like Maine, Alaska, Montana, and Tennessee. 24 million Americans will see their premiums double. Americans living with chronic illness will suffer. Real communities will be devastated. Even families with employer coverage. They say, well, I'm covered by my employer. Ask your friends who work for companies like that. They're already getting notice of higher bills because it's affecting everybody. So, Senate Democrats are united. We're clear-eyed about the consequences. We are ready to vote. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Leader. Well, it's good to see everyone here today, and I want to thank Leader Schumer for bringing us together. Look, this is about affordability. What Republicans are doing right now is they really don't give a damn how expensive health care is going to be for the American people. Plain and simple. Republicans had an opportunity to work with Democrats to get real legislation, real policy included that would extend these tax credits to make healthcare more affordable for millions of people across the country. They chose not to. And it's no surprise, Republicans for the last, 10 years or more, have voted over 70 times to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, to repeal it. You all remember their calling call, we're going to repeal and replace. And that wasn't so popular with the American people on polling, so Republicans, they just said they're going to repeal first, right? And then it was repeal and replace. Well, they never did it. What does that mean to folks? President Trump brought junk plans back, making it okay for the American people to buy some insurance plan, even if they had some chronic disease like cancer, to buy insurance that covers everything but the cancer. One gimmick after another, making things more expensive to the American people. And as Leader Schumer said, look, this isn't just about people across the country that are going to benefit from these tax credits directly. This is if Republicans don't come to the table to extend these tax credits, we all know that insurance is getting more expensive for everyone, including everyone in this room. This is impacting the entire market. Some constituents over Thanksgiving chatted with me that they were excited to read that they were going to get a cost of living adjustment in their Social Security, and then they got sticker shock when the Medicare cost came, and it ate up what they saw with the COLA and some. Over Thanksgiving, people were getting an idea of what health insurance was going to cost. More sticker shock. They were back at the desk on Monday trying to figure things out if they were going to be able to afford it. It's one problem after another. And then to boot, in the big, beautiful bill, Republicans cut all of the federal tax dollars with Medicaid. There's rural health clinics across the country that already announced that they're going to be closing. I mean, this is just one kick in the face after another that Republicans are delivering. I'm going to close with this. You all know that I've been chatting about it more and more and more about that stroke that I survived 3 years ago. I don't know how many of you have been in a hospital bed worrying about getting better. But when you're sick and you might die, all you should be worried about is getting better. Not what happens if you're going to lose your house because you can't afford the damn bill that's going to come after you get better, if you're fortunate to. This is absolutely wrong for Republicans to be lying to the American people and not stepping forward. If they want to come up with reforms, put them on the table. They've had time. Let's get these things extended. The bill that Leader Schumer's talking about has Republican support in the House. They've introduced their own bill. There's support to get this done and get it to the president. I hope and I pray that my Republican colleagues will do the right thing. There's no reason that they can't join us. Get this done. Do it on a voice vote, for God's sakes. Get this done. Tell the American people before Christmas, you're going to be okay. We care about you. We're not going to kick you in the face one more time. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my friend from Vermont, Peter Welch.
Thank you very much. You know, we have a healthcare crisis in this country. This country pays the most and gets the least. Literally, we pay about 2 times more than like European countries or Canada, and our healthcare outcomes are not as good, which is not to say we don't have great care, but it is getting unaffordable. We've got a calendar that is relentlessly ticking away, and unless we extend these tax credits so that people can continue to have the same health care in 2026 that they had in 2025, 24 million Americans are in jeopardy. Leader Schumer brought the Democrats together. We felt it was our responsibility to put a concrete plan on the table that would make certain that Americans across the country did not lose their health care. And Chuck, thank you, because we have 47 votes. We need 13 more. The key to that is going to be whether President Trump wants to engage and bring the parties together to extend these credits. The aspect of this that I find very sad is that the people who are going to suffer are people who are represented by Democrats and by Republicans. It just doesn't matter. These are folks, families, farmers, they need health care. You know, I got a call from a farmer in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. He's a Trump voter. But he said, Peter, I'm paying $900 a month for health care. And if we lose these tax credits, my health care is going to go up to $3,200. And he says, you don't have to worry about me anymore because my family's dropping health care. Well, I do care about him. We all care about him. And that's why Leader Schumer brought the Democrats together to put on the table a concrete plan. We don't have anything in response. And, you know, we often get in the blame game around here, but the one group that cannot be blamed are the Americans who are going to be losing their health care. They have no power to address this. So the Schumer plan here is a concrete proposal that would give security to folks in Vermont, and I'm going to be going to Nebraska and Iowa in my capacity as the ranking member of the Rural Subcommittee on Rural America and the Ag Committee. But I'm going to be talking to farmers out there who are going to be saying the same thing as that Northeast Kingdom farmer said to me. We want to protect the health care that families in this country have. And that includes Republicans, it includes Democrats, it includes independents. So we've got a concrete plan. We've had no response. And that means we're just going to abandon families and businesses and Americans who are going to lose in 2026 what they had in 2025. We've got to pass this bill.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. I turn it over to Lisa Blunt Rochester.
Thank you. Thank you. First, thank you, Leader Schumer, for inviting me to participate. It's really good to be here with two senators who I had the honor of serving with on the Energy and Commerce Committee in the House. We did a lot of good work on prescription drugs, health disparities, and a whole host of other issues. And as I stand here, I'm literally thinking and watching the clock in front of me tick. The clock is ticking. Time is running out. There is a sense of urgency for those of us who are standing up here. And so I know the leader would say he doesn't consider this his plan. He considers this the American plan, that we do something. And I will tell you, as was said by my colleagues, I come from the state of Delaware. And anyone who knows Delaware knows that we are urban, suburban, rural, and coastal. We have farmers. We have small businesses. We have environmental justice communities that are impacted, even by CAFE standards. And so I will tell you, yesterday, when I was looking at my television and seeing our Republican colleagues at the White House, what I thought they were announcing was a healthcare plan. I was shocked that what they were announcing was something that would make us less healthy. And so as I stand here today, I think about the years of my work in this space of health. I served as Deputy Secretary of Health and Social Services in Delaware and got to see the impact of healthcare. I served as head of state personnel, so I saw healthcare from an employer perspective and how much it costs and how do you keep people healthy. I served as CEO of the Urban League, so I got to see health disparities and how in this country, as rich as we are, we have one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. So healthcare to me is a basic necessity. It's what drove me to run in 2016 and what I fought for. And times it's sort of like history is repeating itself or rhyming. Because I came in, Donald Trump was president. Republicans had the House and the Senate. And as was said, there were calls for repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. What we recognize is that the Affordable Care Act is not perfect. But one thing I do know is that that family who has somebody with a pre-existing condition like asthma or diabetes is grateful. That parent who has a kid who's 22 or 23 is grateful. And so what we're saying here is very simple. We have an immediate problem, an immediate crisis, an immediate cliff, and we need to take immediate action. And that's why we're proposing the 3-year time frame to allow us to also work with our Republican colleagues to make the substantial changes that we need to make us a healthier country and to make sure that we have a healthcare system that's working for all of us. I came up here with a whole bunch of notes and really didn't use any of them because it's really that basic. It's really that simple. We're proposing something that will help right now while we also give time to work together. I have stories of Delawareans, as my colleagues do, small business owners, rideshare drivers, young people who are concerned. For the first time, I had a resource fair. For the first time, people were lined up hugging me, saying, please help us. please. And so we stand up here on behalf of the hardworking families. And we also stand up here to say,
well, thank you very much, everybody. It is beautiful, not too cold. There's no wind. We don't have to wear hats or anything. This is a special time. And Melania and I are thrilled to wish everyone here tonight and Americans all across this land a very, very Merry Christmas. So is everybody ready to light the beautiful Christmas tree? Are you ready? So the First Lady is going to do the honors, and we're going to do a countdown. We'll go from 5 to 0, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Honey. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Melania. And it's a beautiful job they did on creating that tree. It's a beauty. And let me also recognize Vice President J.D. Vance and Second Lady Usha, as well as Secretaries Scott Bessent, Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretaries Doug Burgum and Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., Administrator Kelly Loeffler, and their wonderful families are doing a fantastic job. And I see out in the audience the great one, Wayne Gretzky and Janet. Thank you very much, Wayne, for being here. He's used to this kind of weather. Let's also express our gratitude to the great people of the National Park Service. They're incredible, the job they've done, as well as the unbelievable performers here tonight. You're going to see some incredible performers, and we have in the audience the Beach Boys. They're great. During this holy season, Christians everywhere rejoice at the miracle in Bethlehem more than 2,000 years ago, when the Son of God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, came down from heaven to be with us. You're right. Full of grace and truth, he brought the gift of God's love into the world and the promise of salvation for every person and every nation. And we just settled another war today. You saw that with Rwanda and the Congo. It's been going on for 34 years. Millions of people killed. Could be 20 million. They don't know what the number is, and we just settled it today. That was a big one. We're very happy to announce it on this important day. Tonight, this beautiful evergreen tree glows bright on the dark and cold winter night and reminds us of the words of Gospel of John, "In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." Beautiful words. With the birth of Jesus, human history turned from night to day. His word and his example call us to love one another, to serve one another, and to honor the sacred truth that every child is specially made in the image of God. For 250 years, think of it, our country is 250 years. This is a big year. I'm so happy that our presidency was delayed. Otherwise, I'd be sitting home watching television, not being invited. I would be extremely upset. And remember, we have not only the 250 years, but this is a big one. We have the World Cup and we have the Olympics coming up, all within this 4-year period. See, if they didn't rig the election, I would have been sitting, can you imagine? I wouldn't have any of them. And I probably wouldn't have been invited. I would have been very upset by that. But America has stood tall in part because millions of our citizens have heeded that call, and the faith and service of Christians have been essential parts of America's strength from the very, very beginning. Incredible. We love the Christians. We love all religions. And by the way, religion is coming back to the USA. You see that very strongly. So this Christmas season, let me say thank you to everyone who serves the needy and lifts up the communities inspired by faith. Thank you to the police, law enforcement officers, first responders, ICE, and Border Patrol agents who risk their lives every day to defend the innocent, protect the good, and keep the evil and danger at bay. And thank you to the men and women of the United States military, including the brave heroes of our National Guard here in Washington, D.C., where we've set a record for lack of crime in 28 years. So I just want to say we have a great place, and I want to pay my highest respects to those two great guardsmen. You know who I'm talking about. They paid, in one case, the ultimate, and the other. Andrew is getting better. Sarah, unfortunately, is watching from a high, watching from heaven. Her parents are so incredible, and Andrew is hopefully getting better. He got hit hard defending us, and I just want to pay my respects to them, two incredible people, unbelievable people. I spoke with the parents and met the parents today, but the parents of Andrew, and they have spirit and they love our country so much you wouldn't believe. But as a nation, we have much to be grateful for. On this holiday season, our border is secure, our spirit is restored. Most secure border we've ever had in the history of our country. 7 months, and nobody has come in illegally into our country. Nobody, not one. Our economy is thriving, inflation has stopped, our nation is strong, and America is back bigger and better, stronger, better than ever before. Think of it. And we're making peace all over the world. We're settling wars at levels that nobody's ever seen before. 8 of them. We're looking for one more. That's Russia, Ukraine, if that's possible. And I think we'll get there eventually. Last week, 8,000 soldiers killed. Last month, they had 27,000 soldiers needlessly killed. We got to get that stopped. We're working very hard on it. Just over 1 year ago, our country was in very, very serious trouble. The King of Saudi Arabia said to me very strongly, "Sir, 1 year ago, your country was dead. Now you have the strongest and hottest country anywhere in the world." Can you imagine? We did this in 10 months. What a difference, and it's true. Everybody feels that, and all leaders feel that. So as we prepare to celebrate the miracle of Christmas, we thank God for his many blessings, and together we rejoice at the true source of greatness, happiness, and strength. The good news is that glorious nights 2,000 years ago, think of it, 2,000 years ago, it was indeed a glorious night. So I want to thank everybody here. I want to pay my deepest respect and love to all of our great citizens, like 350 million people. We love them all. Whether you like them or not, we love them all. We want to take care of everybody. We have to take care of everybody in our country. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and have a good time. And you're going to see some great entertainment. Thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
We bring you into the chamber.
Venezuela now with Christopher Zabatini, Senior Research Fellow for Latin America, US and the Americas Program at the Chatham House think tank in London. Welcome to DW. Great to have you on the program. Given the military buildup that we're seeing here, do you think that Washington is planning a military intervention in Venezuela anytime soon?
I suspect there will be an intervention of some sort. An invasion is unlikely for the same reason your report just said. It requires many more troops than those that are parked off the coast of Venezuela. And Trump simply does not have the stomach or patience for what he called in 2016 these forever wars or state building wars. And that's what would be required here. What I think he's hoping to do and was hoping to do 20 weeks ago when he started this was trying to show a force, rattle the saber a little bit, and then attempt to frighten the military into doing what he wants to do, which is remove Maduro. He was arguing this was largely a narco-terrorist organization, the government, and that was sort of a legitimate target for U.S. intervention and U.S. military strikes. But clearly he's shown recently that this is really about regime change. It's really about removing Maduro, as he indicated in his phone call, in discussing his phone call with Nicolás Maduro. He wants him to go. Now, the question is a show of force just off the coast of Venezuela sufficient to spark the military defection, or are his calls with Nicolás Maduro sufficient to convince Nicolás Maduro to leave? But in either event, it's unlikely to provoke the sort of democratic transition that he and his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, seem to aspire to, along with the democratic opposition in Venezuela.
So President Maduro described this phone call with Donald Trump as respectful and cordial, and he said he hoped the call would be a step towards what he called respectful dialogue. What do you see Maduro's strategy as being here?
Right now, I think Maduro's strategy is to wait it out. First of all, I think with pressure building in the United States in opposition to this military buildup, and now even more in opposition to the boat strikes that it seems, well, we already knew they were quite likely in violation of international law. There have been 21 boat strikes that have killed over 80 people. Most people argue that those were in violation of international law concerning the laws of war. But now recently it's been revealed that not only did the first missile actually that took out a boat, then was followed up with a series of 3 other missiles to take out the survivors. There's really serious fear that this is not just in violation of the laws of war, but in the violation of U.S. military conduct. So now we're seeing Republicans beginning to raise very serious questions about what is at stake here and what are the Trump objectives. And for that reason, I think it's going to be difficult for Nicolás Maduro to sort of negotiate his own exit, because right now, quite frankly, Donald Trump is on the back foot. And I think there's serious questions. So if I were Nicolás Maduro, and thank God I'm not, I would be waiting this out. And I think that what we're seeing is the likelihood of a very full-fledged military attack. An invasion would never happen. But I think always on the table were a series of missile or drone strikes against selected targets, including maybe even taking out Nicolás Maduro and some of his inner circle. I think that was always on the table. Now I think the likelihood is decreasing as political questions and even pressure is beginning to mount on Trump. So I think in the scale of escalation, what we'll see is more on the minor side. If Trump decides to go in and take out individual military targets, they will be more focused on military targets and drug sites. Now, Venezuela doesn't produce cocaine, but the drug sites he'd be talking about and targeting would be airstrips and warehouses where that cocaine is transshipped from Colombia.
Christopher Zapatini from the Chatham House think tank. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And let's get more from DW correspondent Oscar Schlenker, who has reported from Venezuela for many years. He joins us now from Berlin. Oscar, what are you hearing from Venezuelans? Do they actually believe that the United States will invade their country?
Well, that's what many people are expecting after the threats that Donald Trump has made over the past months even. So people are expecting some kind of strike in Venezuela in order to pressure Maduro into fleeing the country or stepping down from the government.
Speaking of pressure, I mean, we're hearing that 2 Panamanian airlines are suspending flights to Venezuela, joining several other carriers. Is that adding to the kind of pressure that Venezuela is facing at the moment?
Yes, definitely. These were the last 2 international airlines still operating in Venezuela. After the U.S. warnings last week, several airlines suspended briefly their flights to and from Venezuela. And then in retaliation, Venezuelan authorities withdrew their operating licenses. So as of now, the airspace in Venezuela, and you can see it in any flight map, is completely closed. There are no flights except for some few, very few national flights. The situation obviously raises alarms in Venezuela and neighboring countries, bracing for what could be a strike from the U.S. in land targets in Venezuela, as Trump has pointed out several times without much detail. Now, yesterday on DW's news desk, former U.S. Ambassador of Venezuela, James Story, said those strikes could be targeting clandestine airstrips or guerrilla encampments, which the U.S. has already done in the past together with Colombia, which is their biggest ally in the region, and they have done it in Colombian territory. But he also mentioned that an attack could even mean targeting key figures like Diosdado Cabello, which of course would be a much more severe outcome.
And how much pressure does that put Nicolás Maduro under? I mean, how secure is Maduro in Venezuela? Does he have enough support of members of the army such that they will fight for him? Or is he getting increasingly isolated?
Well, he's increasingly isolated internationally, but Maduro has a very evident control of the nation's military and their support, as well as the other institutions Chavismo has set up in Venezuela to ensure their grasp on power. Without the support of the military or the institutions, it would have been impossible for Maduro to steal last year's elections because there was so much evidence towards Edmundo González Urrutia's victory. Plus, the repression against the opposition that followed to silence any dissent was severe. I mean, it has been a brutal year for Venezuelan civil society and for democracy, but Maduro is still standing strong despite countless reports of crimes against humanity, human rights violations. If he remains in power, we can expect a hardening of the repressive apparatus of the regime. And that's what many Venezuelans feel.
But is there a window here for the opposition to try and make itself a little more visible? Because we're hearing that there is a march that's been organized by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Maria Corina Machado tomorrow. Is there an opening here for the opposition?
Well, yeah, definitely. Venezuelans already voted last year and elected Edmundo González Urrutia to lead this transition. And that was made possible after Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado was blocked several times from running. So she is also expected to play an important role in shaping a new Venezuela if there is, in fact, change in Venezuela. As of now, she is hidden inside Venezuela. She has said she will be present to receive the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo next week. We just don't know how she's going to get there. We'll see how these demonstrations of support will go on for her this weekend.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Oskar Schlenker, thanks so much for that.
Beleaguered Secretary of Defense just sunk his own battleship because a video has surfaced from 2016 in which he says two things that are contrary to the position he's taking now. One is that there are abject war crimes that have to be punished, and that there is a no lawful way for people in the military to follow illegal orders of the commander-in-chief. We agree with Pete Hegseth of 2016. The problem is that Pete Hegseth of 2025 is now saying something different. He's saying that people who are in the Senate and the House, like Senator Mark Kelly, should be court-martialed because they said the exact same thing about not following illegal orders under the Code of Military Justice. Let me play you back-to-back the video of Pete Hegseth that now has surfaced from 2016 and the one by Mark Kelly and others in the House and the Senate under the rubric, "Don't give up the ship," in order to remind members of the military that it is illegal for them to follow illegal, unconstitutional orders of the commander-in-chief. And now you know the reason that they've sent out that video. Let's play first the video from Pete Hegseth. By the way, you're on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popak. Hit that free subscribe button. Let's see the 2016 video of Pete Hegseth, and we're going to follow it back to back with the "Don't Give Up the Ship" video that just came out in the last week or two that everybody in the Trump administration is all hot and bothered about, calling them treasonous, calling them traitorous, saying that they should be hanged and court-martialed. Let's play the back-to-back videos.
I do think there have to be consequences for abject war crimes. If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief. There's a standard, there's an ethos, there's a belief that we are above what so many things that our enemies or others would do.
I'm Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly. Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy. Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military.
Wait. Houlihan? Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
And the intelligence community.
Who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk. This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals
against American citizens. Like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army, or Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution, and who we are as Americans. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
All right. Now, that brings us to the acts of war and war crimes committed by Pete Hegseth. Washington Post is standing by its story that Pete Hegseth gave the kill command to double tap a shipwrecked boat with 2 human beings hanging off the back of it, who were defenseless, who were faced the other way when missiles came streaming in from a drone. And that is a war crime. A war crime that, as you can see from Pete Hegseth's own clip, he believes needs to be prosecuted. And we agree. Now, instead of doing that, you've got Pete Hegseth trying to use the fog of war defense. Oh, it was the fog of war. Oh, it was a lot of smoke. Oh, I saw the first video. I didn't see the second video. I don't know about the 2 men on the back of the boat. Let's watch his pandering to the audience during a cabinet meeting in the last 48 hours. Play the clip.
I watched that first strike log. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. So he sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire, smoke, you can't see anything, you got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And then you got sleepy Donald Trump next to him, who could barely.
Someone's seen A Few Good Men, maybe a few too many times. I told you, look, I tried to warn y'all. This episode is going to hit Venezuela a lot because things are developing, and this story here is a show on YouTube, legal news type channel, Legal AF. I subscribe to it. I think it's a great source for news. Again, this isn't the anti-Trump channel. This isn't the anti-government channel. This is the anti-bullshit channel, I guess, is what it's becoming because there's so much of it out there. And what they're doing, it's shady as fuck. So yeah, we're gonna cover that. like it or not.
Stay up long enough to watch this orchestrated J-off, if you know what I mean, meeting of the cabinet, in which they all took turns praising the fearless leader, like some North Korean propaganda video. They woke up sleepy Donald Trump long enough for him to say, I believe Pete Hegseth. I didn't see the video either. Let's play the video of Donald Trump in slow motion throwing Pete Hegseth under the bus. Play the clip.
I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike?
As far as the attack is concerned, I didn't, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with two people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing.
So this has gotten the attention of a bipartisan senators for the House Armed Services Committee, led by Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island, the Republican senator from Mississippi, who are opening up an investigation about it. And the best that Pete Hegseth can come up with is that the admiral in charge of U.S. Special Operations gave the kill command, not him, but he was well within his rights. So he basically said, no, it wasn't me. It was the admiral who committed the war crime. Nothing like character in office, Pete Hegseth not taking responsibility. But in prior video clips, Pete Hegseth has said, oh no, I was involved in all of the early bombings and missile strikes of these vessels in the Caribbean. It is remarkable, the fact that people like Pete Hegseth, before they were in office, actually seemed to have some sort of moral compass, seemed to understand the code of military justice, seemed to understand the Nuremberg principles coming out of World War II, that you cannot follow unconstitutional, illegal orders of a person above you in the chain of command, including up to the highest person, the commander-in-chief. So what happened along the way, Pete? What happened? Why is it now okay for you to suggest that people should be court-martialed for treason because they tell the truth about the code of military justice? And what happened to the war crimes that should be prosecuted now that you are the person that's on the receiving end of that investigation? Now, Pete Hegseth has other problems besides that. Just today, the Office of Inspector General for the Pentagon released a report. Now, you're going to hear Pete Hegseth and others brag about the report. Totally exonerated Pete Hegseth. He didn't do anything. He didn't put anybody in harm's way. That's a lie. That investigation was about Signalgate back at the beginning of the administration when Mike Waltz, a then national security advisor, put together a Signal app chat, an unsecured chat on Signal with 18 members of the Trump administration, where they were all, including J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Stephen Miller, for whatever reason, and others, to talk about a top secret attack on the Houthi rebels in Yemen and about the military strike. And the Office of Inspector General said that is confidential information that put troops and airmen in harm's way because it could have been leaked. It was exposed, and yet the mission went forward. This was mission critical information. that was exchanged on an unsecure communications app in violation of Pentagon policies. That's not an exoneration of Pete Hegseth. So the question is, with Donald Trump's faint praise for Pete Hegseth, is he going to survive to get to the House Armed Services Committee hearings, which are going to be very, very tricky for him? It's one thing for Pam Bondi and Epstein and Kash Patel on the Epstein matter to go in before the Judiciary Committee. We're talking about the Armed Services Committee, which does oversight for the entirety of the armed services. And these are people that, a lot of them, who were in the military. While the Joint Chiefs of Staff is being headed by General Dan Kane, we'll have to see how much independence the Joint Chiefs exercise in order to get to the bottom of this war crime. But every independent scholar who has looked at this issue, including conservatives, including those in the Federalist Society, have said these are war crimes. This is murder. And that has been ordered by Pete Hegseth and or the admiral for the U.S. Special Operations Command. So I think we wanted to bring this to your attention, show you what the latest news has been about the Pete Hegseth video that's been unearthed, and to hoist him up on his own petard here on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button, come over to Legal AF Substack, where if you join us for $7 a month, you can help keep the entirety of Legal AF on the air, so to speak, pay for our journalism and our fair commentary. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popak. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for.
Right on. So yeah, he kind of mentions it in the end there. And I'm not a legal scholar or snob or anything like that. However, laws are laws. And if you break them, eventually, at some point, it's going to catch up with you. Do we know that laws were broken in this case? No, I'm not going to assume that. This gentleman, Mike Pompeo, he looks like he has his mind made up. I think because he called it a war crime to start out with, right? So it's kind of like biased to begin with. I don't know. I don't know if it was a war crime or not, but I do know there are laws and there's rules that you have to follow. Even in brutal war, there are supposed to be rules that you follow. There's this thing called the Geneva Convention. And you're supposed to follow those rules even in the heat of battle. You know, let's say the weapon isn't cocaine and the weapon that they're using is an actual weapon that they can use to blow up a city or something of that nature, right? Something very scary. There are still rules. You know, you can't shoot at a person that's a medic. Makes sense, right? Can't blow up a hospital. Okay, probably a good thing. There's other rules too, though. You know, there's a rule. I thought this one was interesting. There's a rule that says you basically can't do a couple of spy activities. So there's a rule that says you can't dress like the enemy or make one of your vehicles look like an enemy vehicle in disguise. Now, I don't know how often that rule gets followed, but it is a rule. There's a rule that says you're not supposed to shoot soldiers falling out of the sky in parachutes. But if they're invading your land, I mean, people are probably going to shoot, right? So there are rules. And even if at the moment, like Steve was referring to earlier, we're in this kind of gap where it's like, just do it. And by the time you pay the price, hopefully it won't be that bad, or there won't be one at all, right? Good luck. Build your case. I'm going to make it as difficult as possible, drag it out as long as I can. Usually by the time you'll have any case built, if you do, I'm in a retirement home or dead. Who's going to prosecute a 90-year-old man? It's an interesting game. So, do I know they're war crimes? No. I think it would be presumptive for anybody saying that right now. But I do think it's going to be investigated at some point, sooner or later. Obviously, if I notice, me being an amateur, if I notice Trump separating himself from Hegseth during during those questions, separating himself from that second attack in a very slick way, if I notice that, then all the pros definitely noticed it. And that means something. So they're smelling blood in the water about this attack, which means there is something to it. We saw that senator's reaction seemed like a very genuine reaction, and he seemed very, very disgusted and disturbed with what he saw. War is war. It's terrible. It's awful. If it was a perfect world, nobody would have to see images like that. But there's a big difference between watching an enemy combatant get taken out versus watching a couple of people crawling for their life, swimming for their lives, clinging to a boat, get taken out with another missile. And it was mentioned earlier in the chat, what kind of missiles are these that the first one doesn't take him out? Like, I get it. I get it. But the fact that there were survivors and it doesn't seem like the American way, if you will. All right, y'all. So that's going to pretty much do it for the news section today. I may come on a little bit later. I was going to have a guest come on, and for unforeseen reasons, we weren't able to work that out. But may have a space/live stream later with that guest, with said guest, about something else. Something not so depressing as the news has been. So I'm going to take us out on some video of us not invading, stacking up. Oh, I got you, Steve. I'm going to pause this so we can hear it. I'm actually working out a time right now with Louise. He wrote a recent article. You've probably checked it out. Dropped it a few days ago. I was on vacation. But great stuff, I think. As always, Louise is so thorough, and just a super. I mean, he has a great bullshit detector as well. He even calls me out when I'm buying into the bullshit. He's great at it. So yes, getting Louise back soon. So look out for that as well. Not going to be tonight, but it's going to be soon. All right, y'all. Have a great night. Thanks for watching the show as always, and may or may not see you later. If not, we'll definitely see you tomorrow. Have a great night, everyone.